There's a message true and glad for the sinful and the sad.
Ring it out.
Ring it out, ring it out, ring it out. It will give them courage new. It will help them to be true.
Ring it out.
Ring it out, ring it out, ring out.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Redeeming the Time. I'm your host, Chris Macy, and I am the minister here with the North Valley Church of Christ. Today we're going to start a series found in 1 Kings. We're going to start back in chapter 11. This is where Solomon begins to fall away from the Lord. And we're just going to skim over chapter 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And just skim over those. I want us to see the generation of kings in the northern kingdom, because if you're here, your chances are you know about how the United Kingdom of Israel divides, but we'll hit on that a little bit. But I just want to set the scene of how bad things really get in the northern kingdom. And this is going to set the stage for the entrance of Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 17. So if you haven't yet, after this short little episode, we'll do about 10-15 minutes here. I encourage you to go and read this in 1 Kings starting in chapter 11, or if you want to start all the way back in chapter 1. But we're going to be starting here because the goal of this series is to look at the prophet Elijah. And over in chapter 11, you really have three major players. I have Solomon, Jeroboam, and Rehoboam all written down here. Now, you see the names Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and immediately, I think for a lot of folks, they think they're brothers. They're not. Rehoboam is the son of Solomon. Jeroboam is the son of Nebat, who is a servant of Solomon's. But before we get into that, let's take a look at Solomon and see just why he falls so far so fast. Over here in chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "Now King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the sons of Israel, 'You shall not associate with them, nor shall they associate with you, for they will surely turn your heart away after their gods.'" Solomon, this is the end of verse 2 there, Solomon held fast to these in love. Now, stop there for a moment. Well, actually, no. Let's go ahead and read verse 3. He held fast to these in love. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away after other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. Okay. Let's examine that for just a moment. Solomon, we all know, the wisest man, because the Lord blessed him with wisdom, and since he asked for that wisdom to be able to discern amongst his people righteously or judge rightly, God gave him everything. But look what happened to Solomon at the end of his life. He did not hold to what he knew, because surely he knew what God said about these foreign women. He didn't just get 1, 2, 3, or 4, hundreds and hundreds of foreign wives, and he loved them. The text says, Solomon held fast to these women, the wives and the concubines, held fast to these in love. And when you hear about that, he didn't just hold, he held fast. It's like, I don't want to let go of these. I love them. And when you have that kind of love, that kind of desire, you do things to please them. You look for it. It may not have happened right away. In my mind's eye, I kind of see Solomon saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to involve myself in those things." But they just keep pressing, and I want to make them happy, and so maybe a little, and then a little more, and a little more, and the next thing you know, he's not wholly devoted to the Lord. He's devoted over to these. And we're going to see here in a little bit how Solomon reacts to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, when he finds out that the Lord is going to make him king. He goes after him, just like Saul went after David. And so Solomon fell away, and he fell hard. Some want to say that the book of Proverbs and this, which one is it? I can't remember. Not Lamentations, Ecclesiastes. Man, I'm sorry. Yeah, the book of Ecclesiastes is where Solomon repented and came back to the Lord. But when I read through that and I look at what's going on here, I don't see it. I think he wrote that letter beforehand and maybe close towards his end of his life. But I think at this point he just gives up and he falls completely away. I don't see him turning and repenting to the Lord. I think if he did, it would have been in the text in 1 Kings for us here. So he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, verse 6, and did not follow the Lord fully as David his father had done. He built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Molech. So he was building altars and temples for these other gods. And even worse, he was making his own people slaves. We'll see that here in just a moment. In fact, God begins to raise up adversaries against Solomon down there in verses 14 and following. I have it written down here somewhere. The Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, in verse 26 says, Then Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zerah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zerah, a widow, also rebelled against the king. Now this was the reason why he rebelled against the king. Solomon built the Milo and closed up the breach of the city of his father David. Really? Okay, I don't understand. Why would this cause him to rebel? Because he did that. Well, verse 28. He explains, I think, why that is. Now, verse 28. Now the man Jeroboam was a valiant warrior, and when Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, he appointed him over all the forced labor of the house of Joseph. He appointed him that valiant warrior. It can be used, and it has been used in other places in the Hebrew, as being, he looks like a soldier, but it's more of he's industrious. He gets things done, I think is what he's saying there. And so he points him over the whole house of the forced labor of Joseph. Forced labor. He's putting them to work, and he's making them work, and he's putting him in charge of that. And so it sounds like to me that Solomon made him use this forced labor to fix these things in the city, and that was just too much for Jeroboam, son of Nebat. He didn't like that. He didn't like how Solomon was treating, perhaps, his own people. This could be why God picked him. Verse 40. This is another one. Well, actually, no, let's just keep reading. Let's, verse 29. I may not have the time for it, but I might have. We may just hit on Solomon and Jeroboam here and then end this video and come back to Rehoboam and the rest, because I want you to understand what's happening here. So in verse 29, it came about at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him on the road. Now Ahijah had clothed himself with a new cloak, and both of them were alone in the field. Then Ahijah took hold of the new cloak which was on him, and tore it into 12 pieces. He said to Jeroboam, Take for yourself 10 pieces, for thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will tear the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and give you 10 tribes. But he will have 1 tribe for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Asheroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the sons of Ammon, and they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and observing my statutes and my ordinances, as his father David did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life, for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, who observed my commandments and my statutes. but I will take the kingdom from his son's hand and give it to you, even 10 tribes. Man, that's fantastic. But to his son I will give 1 tribe, that my servant David may have a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen for myself to put my name. I will take you, and you shall reign over whatever you desire, and you shall be king over Israel. Then it will be that if you listen to all that I command you, and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight, by observing my statutes and my commandments, as my servant David did, then I will be with you, and build you an enduring house as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. Thus I will afflict the descendants of David for this, but not always. Verse 40. Solomon sought therefore to put Jeroboam to death. But Jeroboam arose and fled to Egypt, to Shishak, king of Egypt, and he was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Solomon sought therefore to put Jeroboam to death. Apparently Solomon heard about what was spoken of between the prophet and Jeroboam. That's what the therefore is. Wherefore? Well, it was just read. And that's why he wanted him put to death. Solomon found out that God was going to make Jeroboam king, and Solomon thought he could overcome God's will, apparently, just like Saul did. And he kept that up and saw him out until his death, I think. And so we're going to have to go ahead and bring that to an end here. I don't want these to get close to the 15-minute mark. So we looked at Solomon. We looked at Jeroboam, son of Nebat. I know this is not as skimming over as I wanted, but we'll hit the rest of that next time. Thank you for being here, and please take a moment and go to our website, redeemonline.net, especially if you're on the YouTube channel. You can find not only this video, other videos there, our audio programs, and other documentation. And we're adding to that, Lord willing, weekly, monthly, throughout each month, and putting up things that will help you in your study in the Word of God. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below or leave them on the website, email me, and we'll get that up here on the video as well. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
And sea, still far from Jesus, many live in sin and doubt. Bring out the news that makes men free, to all the